Next was National Scissoring Day with the Acclaimed coming out. Dude, this act is so incredibly over. They came out, this place, like this audience came to see this segment, whatever the hell National Scissoring Day was. The amount of cardboard cutouts of scissors in the crowd. Do you know the work involved, and then lugging that thing on the subway, getting this into your seat just to hold these scissors up? I mean, this act is so popular.
I'm using scissors to cut scissors. I've never done that. Talk about I don't know, layers here.
Max raps about home loans and being homegrown. Joe Biden, the place just goes nuts. I mean, it doesn't even matter what he says at this point. As long as it is a semblance of a rhyme and maybe a local reference, whatever. Just talk. Just talk, because we want to get to the scissoring.
Toronto.
Yeah. So, my question to you, Wade, do you expect the Scissor Me Daddy song to break out in Brooklyn during the DX segment on Monday?
Ooh, okay.
When Billy's not there.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm going to say no. I feel like there's, for as much as I think like people watch both shows, I get the sense like if you're a WWE fan, like there are a lot of WWE fans who aren't paying attention to AEW, and
because I think if there's one like AEW like chant or something to be brought up, like that's the segment and that's the chant.
If they made a reference to Billy or like the missing member of the group, you might get some of that perhaps.
Yeah, I wonder how fast Paul Levesque would be on his feet if they just broke out.
I believe they will make reference. I mean, it's part of the DX thing to kind of like make those jokes, right?
Like the Scissor Me Daddy, and you can go, and half their roster is from our cuts.
Yeah,
I don't know how you respond if they like break out into that song. I mean, it would be pretty. I think they would definitely call it out. But that segment is interesting, like with no Billy there, and you have just such a popular gimmick right now, chant, for that is Billy Gunn related right now, and this is a crowd. Probably a fair amount of them just went to Arthur Ashe Stadium on top of it. So
perhaps
it'll be an interesting segment if it's called out. They mentioned they have the #1 selling shirt this year, and they brought home gold, and now AEW stands for Acclaimed Every Wednesday. Their merchandise line is just print money, as they're just coming up with these ideas that they should make a Acclaimed Every Wednesday shirt after this.
They should make real scissors.
I don't know if you want to be selling those at wrestling shows.
Oh, really? Why not?
Yeah. That didn't go so well for WCW in the early 90s.
Maybe Arn can sell them.
Well, there you go. That was way too. Bowens knows a thing or two about scissoring. Babe Ruth was the Sultan of SWAT. He is the Sultan of Scissor. And says that scissoring is a handshake, a sign of friendship, of a true team, and people want to be represented. People want to be represented by a real team, not two people just thrown together like Keith Lee and Sneaky Swerve, which was a hilarious line given that these two were literally thrown together with Tony Khan's idea. And talk about a home run idea of, I'm sure Tony Khan did not envision this being the end game, but no. I mean, this was his idea that these two would work together as a team. And it's one of, you could argue, the most successful AEW created act that they have cultivated.
Yeah, I'm trying to have to, I'm going to have to think back for that. But as far as like, two people that were relative unknowns, getting into the company and certainly non-existent as a tag team to the point where they are right now, I definitely think that they're, among the top.
Billy Gunn then gets up to the podium, and he went to City Hall, and he presents the Acclaimed with, I guess, the scissors to the city instead of the key to the city. Mm-hmm. And this got a big pop when they revealed the scissors that were wrapped up. Tony Schiavone loved this. He was having so much fun during this segment. And then Max Caster, like in mass, when it's time to shake hands, says, turn to your left, turn to your right, and scissor your neighbor. The people are doing it. They've got crowd shots of people scissoring. And then Max Caster ends by saying he wants to talk about greatness. and says how Washington won the Super Bowl 40 years ago. And it means a lot because my dad was on that championship team. The Super Bowl was his Super Bowl ring is his prized possession, and compares it to them winning the tag titles. There's no left, no right, no blue or red. They are the people's choice and the people's voice, and wants to have the first ever bipartisan scissor to unite this country, involving the two of them and Billy Gunn, who I took from this, like their assumption that Billy Gunn is Republican. That was my takeaway from this.
Well, do we know how the other two vote?
I mean, the guy's name is literally Gunn, so I'm making a grand assumption, I guess.
Okay.
And he's in Florida, so I mean, the odds are very much stacked, I guess, in that favor. But the first ever, can I just say as well, this segment could have totally bombed, okay?
Oh, yeah.
This could have been a total disaster, especially on an AEW show where they do not do segments like this, especially for this length of time. But goddamn, are these three so over. And this crowd, I'm sure this was maybe the highlight segment of the whole night for them.
For Washington, you mean?
For people that were there live. This was the kind of segment that we talked about, especially in like the first few years of AEW, like being in a crowd like this. Like they just seemed like they were having the time of their life. It was so, these three were so over. And again, like it feels like this is a new age version of DX. And I just can't fathom that Billy Gunn has found himself on top of another potential like merchandise gold mine with the scissoring now.
He is a man of many phases in his career. Okay, between the Smoking Guns to DX to Billy and Chuck to
he's made up for
Shoguns.
Yeah, the Shoguns.
Shoguns.
The one.
Yeah, no, the man has had. Are we forgetting the Voodoo Kin Mafia? Okay, everybody. The man has
had way more misses than hits, but the two hits should be a retirement nest egg that he never has to worry about in the future.
Very true. Anyway. Very true.
Yeah. So the bipartisan scissoring is interrupted by Swerve, who comes out and says, now children of another generation can get suspended, just like they did with DX, which was great. He says that the belt should be on Billy's shoulders because he's the reason they won. And this leads to the challenge that is accepted for Toronto to get Swerve versus Billy Gunn next week. And he threatens them that if you try to scissor me, he pulls out a rock because every time Rock beats Scissor.
Yeah, he's actually used this line before, like in a backstage thing, but I thought it was
a good line the last time he used it, and this you now have the visual aid.
Yeah, he brought out a rock, which was actually a really round rock, wherever he found it. It almost...
He must have gone by like a waterfront or something. You don't just find a rock like that at the side of the road.
It was a beautiful rock, absolutely.
Then Mark Sterling comes out, and he's got like I imagine the petition, this stupid petition that he was trying to get Swerve kicked out of, that at least reminded me for my worst of picks at the end of the year that this was an angle this year, because I hated this stupid petition.
Right. He also like always carries a clipboard, does he not? Like, is that just not his thing?
I don't know.
I don't know either. But he had a great line here too. Paper always beats rock.
He was wonderful? Right. It was a good line. He says the Acclaim needs Sterling. He wants to represent them, and he wants them to scissor him. And they just beat the shit out of Sterling. Gunn accepts the challenge, and then the three scissor for the closing pop on a segment that had no right to be as entertaining as it was for this felt like 15 minutes of television time. I can't remember such a lengthy segment here that did not involve wrestling.
Yeah. This segment possibly tanking. I think, you're absolutely right to suggest, because segments like these on wrestling shows tend to go two ways. Okay. You can get, Lashley's sisters, or you can get
Bailey and Alexa's This Is Your Life.
Yeah. More often than not, they're terrible. Or you can get, The Rock and Sock Connection, This Is Your Life. Like, you can get gold. And this was thankfully more, the latter. I thought it delivered way over expectations. First of all, let's talk about Anthony Bowens. I know him as kind of like the I hate to use the term Marty or Sean, like especially with this group where I think both of them are pulling their weight. But of the two, his star felt a little bit lower, or at least he felt like the guy who was more in charge of the wrestling and not as much of the speaking. This guy got behind that podium today and commanded this room. I had no idea he could speak this well with in a professional wrestling setting. He sounded spectacular, and like I got like real glimpses of like, future main eventer as a solo act just from him here. And then you have Max Caster, who I thought delivered a hell of a speech, injecting, first of all, a ton of his real life sentiment with his father winning a Super Bowl in this city into it. And then all this stuff about like politics. I mean, yes, taking wonderful advantage of being in Washington, of course. But then like, I thought there was some brilliance here. No left, no right, no red, no blue. We all wear pink, which is a combination of red and blue. Isn't that brilliant, John?
Yeah, this was taking like some of Cody promos to a deeper level.
I thought done way better. Somehow these guys turned scissoring into something far more metaphorical and impactful than some silly sexual innuendo. Oh my God. And then you had Swerve, coming out here at the perfect opportunity, killing it with an excellent heel promo. I think the most heelish we've seen Swerve in AEW up until this point, and I think the most comfortable we've seen him as a performer on the microphone in AEW up until this point. Super fluid heel delivery, incredible snarl on his face. Every close-up of Swerve I thought was just awesome. Content-wise, like, I'm excited to see Swerve versus Billy Gunn next week, dude. Like, this whole thing was great. The promos were great. Interruptions were great. Everybody elevated coming out of this.
Yeah, you get Billy Gunn next week in Toronto, and then he's doing Greektown Wrestling the next show as well.
Wow. I mean, all of a sudden he's a hot
guy's
act.
picking up his bookings, okay? He's on fire right now.
Definitely.
So Canada loves daddy ass.